Welcome to a new video series entitled Strategic Capitalism. I'm Richard Devaney from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, and in this video series we'll be gaining insights about my latest book, Strategic Capitalism, New Economic Strategy for Winning the Capitalist Cold War. These short videos are interviews with senior executives and CEOs from a variety of industries talking about what it will take for America to win the capitalist Cold War. I understand you're opening some plants in China.
Yeah.
Why did you choose China over the U.S., and was there something the U.S. could have done to have changed that choice?
The response I've gotten in China borders on what I would say overwhelming in terms of the level of support that was offered to me both by private investors, central government, and regional government entities. They spent the time to understand my technology and the potential that it held for the Chinese market. You know, China is very interested in moving aggressively to electric drive and hybrid drive vehicles in the market because of the energy challenges that they face as well as the environmental challenges. And they are trying to mount a coordinated effort to make that happen at multiple levels. You know, they put regulation out there that basically prescribes volumes of vehicles that need to be in the market in a given time frame, communicated that to their automakers. But they didn't stop there, okay? They then got actively involved in trying to find the technology that they felt would enable that to happen in a cost-effective way. And, you know, what you'll find in China, there's a very close-knit network of people that are leaders in multiple dimensions of Chinese society. Some are investors, some run companies, some are government officials. They have very similar kinds of background. Many of them are degreed engineers. I mean, many of the political officials in China, if you look at their resumes, they are engineers. The premier program in China is Tsinghua University in Beijing. And if you look at some of the resumes of many of the leaders, look at the resumes of the leaders, many of them are Tsinghua electrical engineers. That is the premier program at Tsinghua. And so there's this network of people that have had similar educational experience. They know and trust one another because they went to school together. And they're out to build the new China in a serious way. What I find here in the U.S., very disjointed at the policy level. Okay, we as a country, we lack the rigor and the discipline to do effective policy. Everything has become politicized. There's no higher order objective to be served. Okay, what you're finding in China, these people are out to build the new China. I mean, it's not about personal advancement or political advancement. It's about economic growth. I mean, that's the objective to be served. There's very little real focus on true economics. What I found in the political system in the U.S., it's all based on some self-promotion or, in many cases, buying votes of given constituencies to ensure the survivability of individuals or parties in political positions. You know, you go and talk to a mayor in a major Chinese city, particularly those cities in the economic development zones. Number one, they're degreed engineers. Number two, their function, remember, they're appointed, not elected. That's the difference in the system. They're economic development officers. They're not politicians. I mean, they're trying to promote the growth of businesses, creation of jobs. And I just think in the U.S. we lack that. Now, part of it is our system is fundamentally different. Believe me, I wouldn't trade systems. I'm not proposing that at all. But with officials being elected, and with the creation of what is essentially a professional political class, you know, the model in the U.S. was based on people came out of other walks of life and served as elected officials for 1 or 2 terms and then went back to their other walk of life, but didn't attempt to create a career in political system. What we've evolved to, though, is lifelong politicians. And so their agenda is not economic. Their agenda is political. Their agenda is survivability. I mean, you know, in an elected position. And so everything is sub-optimized to that objective. This is my personal belief. Whereas I think China is still, at this stage of the game, they're still operating on true economic objectives. But it's night and day. I mean, it is absolutely night and day. And I believe me, I tried multiple times to get any level of support from U.S. government entities and came up empty-handed. Because I didn't represent a voting bloc. I couldn't put anybody in office. What I could do is advance the state of technology, but I couldn't help to get anyone elected. So I didn't offer what they were looking for.
That's a frightening assessment. Do you have any suggestions for how we can change that?
Well, I think the practical reality is, number one, the United States has to reassert itself as a technology leader in multiple industries, okay? And it's going to start with education. We have really got to begin to promote people. They don't necessarily have to pursue a career in technology, but we need to create a much more technology-aware group. Now, people are users of technology, I mean, handheld electronic devices and so on, but I mean, you know, broad-based understanding of, you know, core technology should be part of every young student's academic experience, even at the elementary and middle school level, as evidenced today in your class. I mean, these are all very, very bright young business students at a advanced degree level. And I was talking at an engineering level that was literally 30,000 feet. I mean, it was elementary. And as you mentioned, you know, many of the people there, probably I went way over their heads even at that very basic level. If I were to make that same presentation in a class in China, even a business class in China, well, number one, if I were to make that presentation in a master's degree business program in China, 90% of the people in the room would be engineers by background. Their undergraduate would be engineering, literally 90%, if not 100, okay? But even when I talk to people in other non-academic settings, their basic level of understanding of technology is much higher than what you would find here. I mean, it's in even the primary educational experience. And so I think it really in the U.S. it's going to have to start with education, where there's much more of a focus on at least technical understanding, and then at the university level, really encouraging more of the young students to study math, science, and engineering. At least at an undergraduate level, they could still very well pursue other curriculum at the graduate school. If they still want to go into business, there's nothing wrong with an undergrad engineer with an MBA. I mean, in automotive, that used to be the ticket, right? Everybody just did an engineering degree, and then you went and did an MBA somewhere as kind of your next level. And I really think that's a very good model. So that's what it would, in my mind, that's what the U.S. really needs to focus on, is more technical grounding in education. And then somehow we've got to get to a more depoliticized process when we talk about economic development. It can't be trying to create jobs to buy votes. It's got to be, it has to be creating jobs to propel an economy, to grow the country, not to keep people in office. And I don't know how we make that transition given how we've evolved as a political system in our country. I mean, people ask me, what do I, because I spend a lot of time in the U.S. obviously in my career, and I spent quite a bit of time in China in the last 10 years. And they say, what do you think is going to happen? I said, China's going to assert itself as the premier economy in the world. And they'll probably have a 20 to 30 year run. You know, I don't think it'll be a 100-year run, but I think they'll get a good 20 or 30 years out of it.
And who do you think will replace them?
That is a really, really good question. I've seen the futurists are all over the map on that. I would say there's potential for India. Okay, but India comes out of a very different experience. I mean, India was part of the British Empire, colonial, and whatever. But and the level of just abject poverty in India is overwhelming. I mean, so they've got a ways to go, but they've got a core of really talented, technically trained people. You see the new technical centers going into India, you know, everybody's there now. Microsoft, General Electric, you know, General Motors put a major technical center in. And there's a really good core to build on, a core of very technically savvy and also very good business people. So it's probably India, but I would say India is probably, a good 15, 20 years behind China.